Very quickly and very straight to the point. I am going to be presenting something which comes from a slightly different background, that is computer science and collaborative computing. I am not a musician, and I do not have such detailed knowledge, but I have always been challenged by the idea of being able to collaborate over musical materials. And recently, this interest has extended to synchronous real-time collaboration, just as we do with text or other kind of documents that we are all familiar with. For today's presentation, I'm going to cover very quickly three themes. First of all, I would like to explain to you some of the background jargon terms that have been used to describe our work, and you will find some details in the paper. I will try and summarize the specific focus that we have on the Music Collab project, and this being a material focus and a kind of design, trying to work with materials, trying to work with design methods to create an understanding of what we will define in a moment, materiality of the user experience. I have prepared a short video with my students, Dimitrios, Milios, and Nousias, and I will then conclude with some tentative points to take home. Of course, and I will be happy to take any questions you may have either online or later on by email. So let me start by saying that the material term in design and engineering disciplines is not something that was invented recently. It has a decade of history. In the field of human-computer interaction and collaborative computing, there have been a number of cornerstone workshops, some developments which have to do with tangible user interfaces, for instance, and other forms of experiential computing, and have certainly raised a broad range of new questions. These questions, I hope, will be revealed. I will not go through one by one, but they will be revealed as you follow through my presentation. In parallel, however, there have been developments in the design-oriented world or realm, in the sense that if we consider software as a material or a new emerging kind of material, then of course we are interested to find out the properties of that material which allow us to integrate it with other materials, being digital or otherwise. So immediately we get into the world of playing with concepts, human and material agency, non-human agency, and so on and so forth. And then the issue of materiality steps up and creates a cornerstone which, as you will see, demands its own attention. So for the purposes of this presentation, please consider that I'm referring to material as being whatever substance or matter we may use to create things. And when we talk about things, I will specifically mention the user interface. And when we talk about materiality, we will refer to what is created, what is left over when material and non-material agency are enacted. In doing so, and in playing with these terms, of course, it comes to the forefront. What's the relation with music notation lessons or music lessons in general? Well, to raise or state the question, the research question immediately and straight from the beginning, our current interest is to investigate what kind of materials are music lessons made up from. And when we refer to music lessons, we refer to computer-mediated music lessons. Of course, there will be an interplay between the virtual and the physical. Of course, there will be an interplay between sensed action, physical action, and virtual action. But at the end of the day, what is it that remains out of this contact? Now, I was trying over the last few days to conceive an example away from the music lessons to try and sort of make a correlation. And the best I thought of was a simulation task. If someone was to make a driving simulation experiment, he would, of course, search and find out a number of materials. Some of them he would like simply to plug and play with. Others he would like to tune and bring into a certain form, so that following some sort of configuration, he would be able to create something along the lines of what you see in the screen. And once this is done, then of course, by enacting human and material agency, you have the result of a simulation task. You collect data which will be useful for your F1 driving team experience in view of a Grand Prix. Let's make a hypothetical example. And if that is the case, then we know from human-computer interaction that this dance of agencies effectively materializes as the exchange of events. Events which are created by humans who sense the external environment, exercise, plan and execute physical actions on specific objects, interaction objects or other objects within the material world. And then on the other hand, the material world which responds to the actions of the human being. Now, if that is the theoretical context, then of course the question is, how does this relate to a music lesson? And we have come to address this issue over a number of experimental works, starting back in 2006. Not, of course, the full scale of issues, but specific foci every time and then. Recently and prior to Music Collab, we investigated some more advanced representations in the context of network music performance. But the main issue, here I have a slide. I was planning to show you some video clips, but I will not do. You can find them on YouTube. I will stop it, given that we don't have the time. The same holds true for all 3-4 video clips that you see on the screen. Here you have an alternative HTML representation of music. So coming now to today and to the days prior to Music Collab, if you look at how the computational world has been shaped, then you will see that over the years, materials have been changed, new platforms have been created, established, progressively developed. I was glad to hear about the Web Audio API and the steps towards maturity. But on the other hand, we are still not able to answer the basic question, which is what is behind the specific application, such as the one you are going to see here. Now, this is a video clip, a very short video clip, which will take you through the basic concept of synchronous collaborative music lessons. So here you see 2 screens, in fact, 3 users. The pointer has been used to guide you through. This is the Verovio user interface, as you have experienced it or informed by previous presentation. But let me stop here to say that what you see is not actually, is not actually Verovio, because it has already been extended and augmented with various features. First of all, we have extended this material, Verovio software, so that we can represent oneself over the score. Secondly, we have extended the interaction facilities of Verovio, so that we can, for instance, support single and multiple selection. And this in a collaborative setting, in a synchronous collaborative setting. If I let the video go through, you will see, for instance, that we have also expanded the capabilities of Verovio so that it can contain an anchor of who has the current access to the floor panel, but also by connecting, interoperating with Gigi, which is the conferencing part of our project. So here, for instance, imagine that you are in a Skype session, or in fact in a Zoom session, with the only difference that you can still manipulate synchronously the shared object of work. This is important because, for instance, in the tool I'm using just now, which is Zoom, I cannot share anything else with you other than my screen. Whereas at the user interface that you see shares not only the room, but also the artifacts, which are different from, they may be different from what a music lesson is made from. So you see immediately that conferencing combined with something which has been augmented and extended creates a new experience. Now, the materiality of this experience is still unknown. We cannot, by looking at the software, determine how is this synchronous and real-time collaborative system is initiated or is facilitated. So I'm passing the video clip just to get to the point that where I would like to show you, for instance, that you have already seen the Verovio Hamdra viewer being augmented, and how was it augmented to support something which was purely keyboard-based on the left-hand side, to transform it to something which is purely mouse-based. Now, from this transition, we were also led into the scenario of qualifying the current floor holder. So here, for example, you see Nick doing something, apparently selecting a note, and at the remote side, our colleague or Dimitrios or whoever else attempting to make a comment on a specific part of the shared score. We also support multiple note selection. We also support comments and replies, and this is in a totally real-time synchronous setting. So, in effect, I will go through these because I think more or less you have seen these things. And let me now conclude by saying what we have found so far. We have found so far that indeed, yes, we can create software, complex systems using different components, whether we call them libraries, programming languages, toolkits, or digital materials in general. I think it is critical that these digital materials exhibit certain properties. Some of them are those that you see here, with transformative capacity being something which we are working on, but we have not yet concluded statements to make. Surely we have chosen Verovio because it exhibits interactivity. It can be edited. It is open and interoperable. It can be reprogrammed. It can be, it supports scalability. It can be transformed in ways that suits our own purpose. But all this has been realized by augmenting, integrating, expanding, interoperating, and so on and so forth, building other software components and libraries which effectively lead to this result. For digital materials not supporting some of these, obviously the options are different and limited. In conclusion, I think we can see a music lesson, especially a computer-mediated music lesson, as an assemblage of agencies, human and non-human, material agencies. The important thing is that these agencies can be taken apart, especially the material components, reconfigured and brought back together so that we can set off the next experimental cycle, the next purpose, the next task at hand, the next experiment. Now, whether this view is actually useful as a design pattern, an emerging design perspective, whether this view is going to lead to new insights into what constitutes a digital material. For instance, how can we define transformative capacity? In computer science, this is not possible at this point in time. We do not have a complete, all-around and square definition of what is the transformative capacity of a certain material. We have other measures in physical to assess physical materials. But I think just to get to the point where I can conclude the presentation, I think you can get my point here, and I will let it there, just in the hope that I might even get one question. Thank you.
Thank you, Demosthenes. We have one question from the participants in the Zoom meeting. It was a hand, man. What is it called in French? No? Okay. Okay.
Should I read the message?
No.
The chat. Sorry.
Is there one question from the audience?
So it's just the beginning of your project, right?
Yes, it's just the beginning.
Okay, because it looks like more sort of, yeah. I said it, of course you've got already some tools online, but it looks like more a sort of a position paper, what you plan to do, what you would like to do. And I think that some of the things you saw the previous day might be a good addition. I'm not talking of the tools exactly, but you saw some work that people are doing, like Mark Bernstein for collaborative music, or maybe maybe the presentation was not so interesting by my students, but he made some, it's useful for teaching also, sound processing and such things. Or I think because you spoke of some abstract concept, like we must assemble bricks to make something better and so on. So yes, I think you can, by looking at what the community here is doing, find some interesting tools and collaborations.
Michelle, I have acknowledged, I'm sorry I was not there already. I'm very sorry.
Yes, okay, but we have representatives of our project in this conference, so of course we can, I think we learned a lot through this conference, which we can actually use within our project and improve things a lot. Thank you.
Anyway, good afternoon to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.